Not all love stories are created equal. Some are messy, some are calm, and some are downright disastrous. But they all teach us something about what really matters in a relationship. Take Pride and Prejudice, for example. Jane Austen fills her world with couples who are charming, complicated, or just plain reckless. Some love stories sweep you off your feet. Others make you shake your head and mutter, "Oh no, why did that happen?" Through each pairing, Austen shows us what works, what fails, and why character and integrity matter far more than charm or convenience. Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy may be the gold standard of love in the novel, but the supporting couples are just as important. They offer cautionary tales, gentle reminders, and even a few laughs along the way. So let's dive into the romances that make this story sparkle and the mistakes that make it unforgettable. The heart of the story. Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy could not be more different or more perfectly matched for growth. But to understand why their story is so compelling, we also need to meet some other key players. Elizabeth is the second of 5 Bennet daughters, growing up in a lively but modest household. Her mother is fixated on marrying off her girls, while her father watches the chaos with bemused amusement. Elizabeth herself is witty, clever, and fiercely loyal to her family. Her eldest sister, Jane, is kind, beautiful, and effortlessly gentle, a total foil to Elizabeth's sharper edges. Jane has caught the eye of Charles Bingley, a wealthy, charming gentleman who has just moved into the neighborhood. Their budding romance sets the stage for the Bennets' social entanglements and highlights the tension between heart and status. Then there's Darcy. At first, he seems aloof, proud, and socially intimidating, especially when he insults Elizabeth at the Marytown ball, muttering that she is tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt me. Elizabeth overhears, naturally, and does not forget it. Her first impression is a man who is haughty, judgmental, and entirely insufferable. From that point on, every encounter between them is a dance of misunderstandings. She teases, he broods. She misjudges, he miscalculates. They clash constantly. Yet, beneath the tension, Austen quietly sets the stage for mutual respect, admiration, and eventually, love. The first proposal is, well, a disaster. Darcy declares his love, but he does it like a critique. He mentions her lack of fortune, hints at her family's improprieties, and frames his feelings as if he's doing her a favor. Elizabeth is shocked, offended, and rightly so. She rejects him bluntly and unapologetically. This is not just anger. She sees it as self-respect and moral clarity. Darcy retreats, angry and wounded, and begins the slow work of reflection. Elizabeth, meanwhile, receives a turning point of her own, Darcy's letter. In it, he explains why he interfered in Jane and Bingley's relationship, exposes the truth about George Wickham, a charming but deceitful militia officer we'll learn about later, and hints at his own misjudgments. Elizabeth begins to see her own prejudices and pride in a new light. She realizes that she has misjudged both men, and in doing so, gains insight into herself. The ultimate proof of Darcy's character, and the reason we love him, is his quiet intervention when Lydia elopes with Wickham. Lydia is reckless and oblivious to consequences. Wickham is charming but selfish. Their elopement threatens to ruin the Bennet family's reputation. Darcy steps in discreetly, pays off Wickham's debts, arranges the marriage, and protects the family, all without seeking credit. He doesn't announce himself as a hero, he simply does what is right. Through Elizabeth and Darcy, Austen shows that love isn't just butterflies and charm. It's about growth, humility, and the willingness to apologize and correct your mistakes, even when it's uncomfortable. They bicker, misjudge, and clash, but they also learn, reflect, and act with integrity. They are flawed, lively, and principled. And in that, they set the gold standard for love. Imperfect people choosing to grow together. Charm without character. If Elizabeth and Darcy are the gold standard for love, then Lydia and Wickham are the cautionary tale. Lydia Bennet, the youngest Bennet sister, is lively, impulsive, and obsessed with attention. She loves flirting, excitement, and imagining herself the heroine of a thrilling love story. George Wickham, on the other hand, is charming, handsome, and utterly irresponsible. He knows exactly what to say to win hearts, but has little thought for consequences, his own or anyone else's. Their reckless attraction reaches its peak when they run off together. Lydia, naive and starry-eyed, truly believes this is the start of a romantic adventure that will end in marriage. But in reality, Wickham has no intention of marrying her. He's using Lydia for fun and temporary pleasure, fully intending to chase a wealthy match elsewhere at some time that suits him. Their elopement is a ticking time bomb. Scandal threatens to ruin Lydia's reputation and the entire Bennet family. What makes this story stick is the contrast with Elizabeth and Darcy, where Darcy acts quietly and with principle, thinking of others, even when no one will know. Wickham acts for himself, leaving a trail of chaos. Watching Lydia fall for him is a reminder of how easy it is to mistake charm for integrity. Excitement feels thrilling in the moment, but without thought, responsibility, or care for consequences, it can lead straight to disaster. True love is grounded in character, not just charm. And it's only when someone acts with integrity that a relationship can survive. Or, in Darcy's case, save everyone else from ruin as well. Gentle, steady love. If Lydia and Wickham are chaos, Jane and Bingley are the calm in the storm. Jane Bennet is gentle, kind, and endlessly patient. She sees the good in everyone, sometimes even when it gets her in trouble. Charles Bingley, newly arrived in the neighborhood, is charming, warm-hearted, and genuinely devoted to Jane. From the start, their connection is obvious. A quiet affection, mutual respect, and a shared delight in each other's company. Their love is tested, though, not by passion or ego, but by interference. Darcy, worried for Bingley and convinced Jane isn't truly in love, convinces him to step back. Misunderstandings and distance follow, and for a while it seems that their happiness might be postponed. But Jane's patience and Bingley's genuine goodness win out. They learn to communicate, trust, and eventually reunite, stronger for the brief separation. Through Jane and Bingley, Austen shows that love doesn't always need drama or fireworks to be real. Sometimes steady kindness, mutual respect, and thoughtful patience are enough to build a lasting, joyful partnership. Practicality versus romance. Not every marriage in Pride and Prejudice is built on fireworks. Sometimes it's built on practicality. Enter Charlotte Lucas and Mr. Collins. Charlotte, Elizabeth's sensible and pragmatic friend, sees the reality of her situation. She's approaching an age where marriage prospects are limited and security matters. Mr. Collins, on the other hand, is pompous, socially motivated, and utterly devoted to following etiquette and pleasing his patron, Lady Catherine. Charlotte marries him for one reason and one reason only: stability. She knows she won't be swept off her feet, but she will have a secure home, financial protection, and social respectability. In Austen's time, women had few options for independence, and marrying well, practically speaking, was often the only way to secure a future. Charlotte's story stands in contrast to the passionate sparks of Elizabeth and Darcy, or the gentle devotion of Jane and Bingley. Charlotte's choice reminds us that marriage isn't always about butterflies or passion. Sometimes it's about steady commitment, partnership, and keeping promises. Austen shows this quietly, without judgment, and it resonates even today. Love can take many forms, and steadfastness has its own quiet value. Lessons from a cautionary example. Finally, Elizabeth's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. Their marriage is a study in mismatch, and what happens when love, respect, and trust are missing. Mr. Bennet is witty, clever, and often detached, amusing himself at his wife's expense rather than stepping in with guidance or support. Mrs. Bennet, lively and excitable, is obsessed with marrying off her daughters and has little regard for her husband's perspective. He clearly does not adore her, and she does not respect or trust his leadership. Over the years, this lack of mutual love and respect creates a snowball of chaos. Household decisions are impulsive or ignored, priorities clash constantly, and the daughters grow up with a mix of tension, mismanagement, and insecurity. Lydia's reckless flirtation and the disaster with Wickham are, in many ways, the inevitable results of a home where guidance, unity, and moral example are absent. For Elizabeth, witnessing this gives her a quiet but powerful education. She sees firsthand how a marriage without respect, trust, and steady love can spiral into trouble, not just for the couple, but for everyone around them. It shapes her discernment, making her cautious, wise, and determined not to repeat the mistakes of her parents. Austen uses Mr. and Mrs. Bennet not to villainize them, but to show the stakes of love, respect, and character in a partnership, and to highlight the values Elizabeth carries into her own relationship. What Austen teaches about love. By the time the last letter is read, the last elopement resolved, and the Bennet household settles into its new rhythms, Austen leaves us with a rich tapestry of love in all its messy, beautiful forms. Elizabeth and Darcy show us that real love grows. It's not instant or easy. It's about humility, reflection, and choosing to act rightly even when it's hard or unseen. Their story reminds us that love isn't just butterflies, it's growth, integrity, and the courage to correct our mistakes. Jane and Bingley, in their gentle, steady way, show that kindness, patience, and mutual respect can carry a relationship far. Their love doesn't roar with drama, but it thrives quietly, proving that sometimes calm waters are just as strong as a stormy passion. Lydia and Wickham, by contrast, are a cautionary tale. Charm without character leads straight into chaos, and excitement without thought can leave disaster in its wake. They remind us to look beyond surface appeal and ask, does this person act with integrity or just impulse? Charlotte and Mr. Collins show the practical side of marriage. Stability, social expectation, and careful calculation can create security. But Austen makes it clear that comfort alone cannot replace joy, connection, or personal fulfillment. It's real, it's human, but it's not the ideal. And finally, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. Their mismatched priorities, lack of mutual respect, and absent guidance ripple through their daughters' lives, teaching Elizabeth, quietly but powerfully, she does not want. A marriage without love, respect, or shared values is a lesson in what can go wrong when hearts and priorities aren't aligned. Austen doesn't just write about romance. She writes about choices, character, and learning how to navigate the messy, joyful, and sometimes scandalous journey of love. Along the way, we see what works, what fails, and what it takes to build a partnership that's steady, thoughtful, and rooted in integrity. We might recognize a bit of Elizabeth in our own careful weighing of love and character, a touch of Jane in our quiet patience, a hint of Lydia in moments of impulsive excitement, or even a dash of Charlotte in practical decisions we've made. For better or worse, we all carry pieces of each story. But the beauty Austen shows us is that it's never too late to learn from mistakes, embrace growth, and cultivate love that lasts. That's all for now. Take care, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.